Hey guys, welcome back to Tethan Props. Today I'm going to show you how I went about making Gandalf's sword into a lightsaber. So this sword is called Glamdring, and he picks it up in The Hobbit in the movies and carries it all throughout the Lord of the Rings movies. And it's just a great looking sword. Oh, there's the blade plug. Great looking sword, and I knew I just had to turn this into lightsaber form. So I've already done Gandalf's staff in lightsaber form. So that's it here. Really happy with how this looks. So these two together make a really good pair. But we're not focusing on this one at the moment. We're looking at Glamdring. So this is probably my favorite lightsaber that I've made so far. It's just such a good design. It's such a nice sword, and it's turned out really well in a lightsaber. How did I make this? I started off with a 3D model, so I had to make it from scratch. I split it up into two major bits. That was the pommel as well as the top section, and the top section, because my printer wasn't big enough, I actually had to cut the wings off and print those separately, so that's all right. But I might get a bigger printer in the future which allows me to print it all in one big piece, which would be good, but we'll work towards that. I've got my parts printed, ready to go. So the first thing I need to do is put the coupler that holds the lightsaber blade into the top section of the handle. So I'm just going to use a good amount of super glue and just glue that in. It's a really tight fit, so I've got to press it down pretty hard. Next thing is to put the inside of the handle in. So what I'm going to do is drill out a hole, cut this off and glue it in. Now I need to cut that. There we go. So that is the midsection done. This is where our handle will join in there, so I'll have to fix that up a little bit later, but for now that's how we want it. Time to glue the wings on, just with a bit of super glue. Now it's time to start painting these. So I'm going to start off with grey primer. I'm going to do grey primer over the whole top section, block off where the lightsaber needs to go because I don't want to get paint in there, and then just paint the pommel with grey primer as well. So I'll go and do that now. While the painting is going on with the rest of it, I can get on to working onto the handle. So I've got two of those couplers that I use for the lightsaber blade, and a little bit of spare PVC pipe here. What I'm going to do is just join the two together, just like that. So I've got my blue fake leather sheet, and what I need to do now is cut out a length of it that is just big enough to wrap over this whole thing. And I can cut it off. Perfect, so I've got a lot of excess there. I'm just going to trim that down a bit. Now I need to start working on the threading. So what I'm going to do is just mark out where I need to put all my holes. Now I've got to go through, create holes with my knife, and then we can start threading. Got all the holes made, so now it's time to start threading it. So I don't know exactly how much I need, but it's probably not quite that much, but it's always good to have more than you actually need. So now I'm simply going to go and just thread it through all the holes I just made. It's a little bit time consuming, but it makes a really good result. And that's that section done. So now it's time to glue this together. I use contact cement, so it's just a regular contact adhesive. It works really well because it dries kind of a little bit slow. So because it dries slowly, it gives me time to get this down and tighten it fully. Whereas if you have something that dries quickly, you don't have much time to do it. So I forgot one thing. I want to do a spiral. So if you look at Glamdring, it's got a spiral rib underneath the handle. So this one here, I've got bands. I'm going to do a spiral. So I think that'll look pretty cool. To do that, I've just got to get my twine, my super glue, and just glue it down in a spiral motion. Alright, there we go. Super glue dries up super quick, so you don't really need to wait for it. So take my glue, spread it on. I want to use a fair bit because I have to spread it over the whole area, and I want a strong bond. So now I can slide this over. Line it up nicely, and now it's time to start tightening all of these up. There we go, so we'll tie off the end there, put a little dab of super glue on the knot, and then tighten it, and that will make sure that that knot does not come apart. So just while everything dries, I'm going to tie it off around the edges. I'm just going to let that fully set up. So that'll probably be good in about an hour or so. Then we can cut it off, sand down the edges a little bit so we don't have that overlay, but there we go, that's our handle done. You can see the really nice spiral. Perfect. All right, my painting is halfway done. I've put down my grey primer and put down gloss black. Gloss black is a really good base color for aluminium. Silver makes it look really nice. So now I've got to go paint the silver on top of this. I've got my parts already painted with the silver, so it's time to start doing a little bit of weathering on it. So I'm just going to use some black watered down paint, and this is really straightforward. You just cover the whole thing, and then we'll go back and rub off all the excess with paper towel, and it will just leave a really nice finish. So I'm just going to let those dry before we go back and do the highlights. The parts have dried, so now it's time to do the highlights. So I've got to get my dry brush. So this is just a paintbrush that has really separated thistles, really good. And I've got my Tamiya model paint. So this is just a nice silver. So what you do is just get a little bit of it, wipe off any excess so you're not using too much, and just go over all the highlights. And just add scratches where scratches would normally happen. So you just go and do that over the whole lightsaber. So on Glamdring, there's also these little gems that you can see in the middle of the hilt there. So those are blue, which means I want a metallic blue. I don't have metallic blue paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine this blue. Actually, I might grab a darker blue. So I've got a darker blue here. I'm going to combine this blue with some silver to hopefully make a metallic blue paint, and then I'll just carefully paint that area. Done. Now it's time to do the final bit of assembly. So I've got my handle here, looking really nice with the spiraling ridge underneath, and I've got my painted pommel. So I want this to be the side that the pommel connects into, so I'm just going to glue it together like that, just using super glue as normal. Done. So I'm just going to let that sit for a little bit. It's time to start working on the electrics for my lightsaber. The light source that I use is this really bright 200 lumen Arlec USB chargeable torch. So it's got a rechargeable battery in there that charges via USB port. It's got a lens here, which is really handy, and a really bright LED. So great little torch, works perfectly for this. So what I need to do is go and cut this up and take out the guts of it. All right, I'll go and do that now. So here I have the parts from the torch. I also need a couple other pieces, so I'll go and get those now. All right, got the last thing I need, which is a spacer. And this spacer is used to just put the lens a little bit away from the light so it actually focuses the beam correctly. So to put this all together, don't laugh at me, I use tape. That's because if anything goes wrong, I don't want this whole thing glued together, because if you glue it all together, it's kind of stuck like that. And if anything happens and like the LED burns out, or if I need to switch it up, or if I want to change the color or whatnot, if I glued it together, you wouldn't be able to change it. So that's why I don't glue any of my lightsabers together, just in case I need to open them back up. So the way in which I'm doing is just the light source, the spacer, and then the lens will go on top. If I was to have this lightsaber colored, I would put in some color filters in there as well. But I've decided for Glamdring that I'm going to go a white blade, because I think that would look really cool. I've already made Gandalf's staff into a lightsaber and made that blue, so I think the white and the blue lightsabers will go really well together. I've got the light, the lens, a little bit of clear tape to hold the lens in. Obviously don't want to use the black tape over that, otherwise you won't see through it. And then just finish the rest off with some more black tape. There we have it, that's our light source. Looks a little bit ghetto, but it actually works really well for these kind of lightsabers and the way that I do it. So the way that this will go together is the handle slides off there, and this will insert up into there. So I've just got to adjust the amount of tape that's on there, which I think it fits quite well, just to make it the perfect tight fit. I want to be able to remove it, as I said earlier, just in case something goes wrong, but I also don't want it sliding around when you're trying to use the lightsaber. Just like that. And then we have that button that we took from the lights earlier with our tweezer. We put that in place. There we go. Look at that. Alrighty, that's done. Let's go to the reveal. And there we have it, guys. That is Glamdring turned into a lightsaber. Gandalf's really nice big two-handed sword turned into a lightsaber. So I'm incredibly happy with how that looks, and it looks even better when you put a lightsaber blade in there. So the lightsaber blade friction fits in like all of my lightsabers. These are not for combat, they're just for display and cosplay, so friction fit does the job. But that looks really great with a lightsaber blade in there with the white light. So really happy with how that's turned out. And we can remove that. And there's blade plugs that I have that you just use for storage. Makes it look a little bit nicer. So you just slot it in there and it gives it a cool effect. To charge this, all you have to do is pull it apart at the handle and it charges via a USB port there. Pretty straightforward. All right, there we have it, guys. That is Glamdring made into lightsaber. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Check out my other videos. Like, subscribe, you know the drill. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.